Hi everyone, welcome to our channel where we're going to teach Rhino 7 Part 2 of 3D Modeling Weekend House by Ryue Nishizawa. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for all things design, architecture, and real estate development related. And if you haven't already, check out our previous video where we actually go through 2D drafting the floor plan of Weekend House. So this is kind of where we left off, where we've drafted the floor plan, and next thing we want to do is 3D model the house, right? Bring up the height, do the walls, ceilings, and there's a couple different ways of approaching 3D modeling this. On one hand, we could 2D draft the elevations and kind of put it together from there. On the other hand, we can also just look at photographs and maybe drawings available online and then 3D model it based on that. So maybe I'll show you a couple of different ways. The first thing would be maybe based on the elevations. So to do that, we can make sure that we bring that in as an image. So I've just turned on the image layer and then made that the active layer. And then to bring in an image, you can type in picture. And then I've saved a bunch of photographs and drawings here. So this one I have some section and elevations that I'm hoping to bring in. And then I just click, and then I click a second time. So if you saw our previous video, you'll also know that we'll want to scale the drawing accordingly. So right now, the plan is quite large, same as the sections and elevations. So we want to make it match up with the scale of our existing floor plan. So the way to do that is we'll just draw some temporary lines, for example, and we're going to grab that corner of the building, grab the other corner, and then I'll click there. So this is a line. This should be the full width of the building, right? Next, I will, let's say, type in move. Just going to move the section over to one corner. And then I'll draw another line, let's say from end to end in the most accurate way, or as close as possible, right? This is not going to be perfect. So now I have two lines, right? One to the current drawing and then one that it should be, right? So if I type this, or if I take this image, I type in scale, I'll take the base point. Reference point is the corner of the section. And then the second reference point is the line that I drew to match up with the current floor plan. So I click that. Now it kind of scales accordingly, right? Right now the section is now the width of the floor plan, which is exactly what we want. In the previous video, we scaled the plan to be accurate to a known dimension. So that's how you can kind of set up kind of 3D modeling a drawing that already exists and then getting it fairly dimensionally accurate. Again, it's not perfect because we are tracing. If you actually knew the numerical numbers, then best to go by that, but this should do for our purposes. So I'm just going to select the lines and then delete them. Those are kind of just to roughly scale the drawing. So that's good. I have the images all on one layer. Next is, these are the elevations. So you can see that this elevation is actually right here. So you'll see it has a couple windows. And the other elevations up here, there's a set of doors and there's a kind of slender window here. So that kind of matches up with this top part. So we could do that. So see what we want to do. Let's make the walls the active layer, right? And we can see the construction lines. We could turn that on if we want. So I'm just going to grab this corner from my floor plan. Make sure that you have Smart Track on, so that allows you to essentially carry this a line across. And then I'm going to click the corner of my elevation. I'm going to grab the corner of my plan here and bring it up. Make sure you have intersection and perpendicular on. So again, no snap to the perfect horizontal or 90 degrees. And then I'm going to go up here. Grab that corner. And then if you click on the point, it should automatically close the polygon. So that's great. Next, you might want to create another set of construction lines. I'm going to rename this to construction lines floor plan. And then I'll create another, maybe construction lines elevation. So what I'm going to do is make that active. And I'll see if I can carry this across. And copy. Because again, it should line up with my plan, right? I want to see if there's a rough dimension I can go by. So let's say 750. Click on that. Then I'll just move it a bit closer to what it's showing on the elevation. And then maybe I'll copy this across. 2200. Right, so that's roughly where the window should be. And again, they should line up with the plan, right? Next, I'll switch back to the walls layer. And then, again, roughly, let's see, 375, let's say. I'll just draw these rectangles, right? Now, I think they have a bit of a frame, so you can offset it by, let's say, 75. It's quite a thick frame. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's like 50. So those would be like your windows. And then you can copy that over. Right? And then same thing can happen with your lines here. I think in the last video I didn't account for these windows, so I can again copy this over and make sure that they're shown in the plan. Now I can switch these lines off. I can even switch the image off, and we can here type in trim. Those are the trim objects, so now I can just click on those items pretty easily. There you go. And then my windows. I can go to the windows layer and make that active. Simple way to represent it is just a rectangle with like a line in there. If you want to show the jam, you can also show a rectangle to represent that. You can copy it over and then simply trim the line. So we have the window here, and then I'll just copy that over. You could make this into a block. Actually, call it like window. And then in that way, actually, anytime you change that block element, it will change it for all those instances. So that's like a nice way of doing it. So now you can copy it over. All right. So that's that. This is a very simple elevation, so that's pretty quick. And then we can draw the other one. You can imagine this is kind of like a net unfolded, so you'll notice that these elevations and sections are actually upside down. But yeah, we can still draw it as is and then go from there. Simple ways, because we know everything's the same height, I can simply copy maybe the outline of the building here. For some reason shifted. But again, we can turn on the construction lines, make that the active layer, and then we can simply maybe draw this all the way up to help create some of our elevation lines. So I'll copy this, right? And then if we go back to make our walls the active layer, then we can simply draw this in. So yeah, it doesn't always line up perfectly, depending on the scan. So we'll just kind of do our best. So I'm just offsetting it again. Show the frame. We're missing the door, so draw that in. Alright, so if we take off the elevation lines, this is what it looks like, right? And again, this is actually technically upside down, so we'd actually have to flip this. Alright, so that's it. Very basic elevations. And we don't have the elevation drawings of these, but I do have photos, so I could quickly show you. The big courtyard essentially has like a window and some doors, 4 doors, and then some like wood slat walls. The other elevation similar to the big door, and then got the walls. So this could actually just be represented as a solid wall. So it's really just the other one. Kind of have to show that window. We can kind of roughly show that though. So that was this wall here. There's a window here, I believe. So next thing, we can turn this off. You can even select that and group. So now we can group this. And we can essentially even like move them over here. And then we can rotate going to the, let's see which view, the right side view. We can pick the corner, pick one end, and then like flip it up. So this is what it should look like in elevation. So we'll do the same for this elevation. We're just going to move it, let's say, down. Going to the right side view, now we're going to rotate, picking the one corner to the right and then flipping it up. Right, so now looking in perspective, you can see this is how it matches up with the plan. Okay, so yeah, next thing is doing the 3D massing. So I'll create another layer here. I like to do 3D, and then you can make a sub layer. It's called 3D maybe walls. You can make it a different color just so it's easier to see. And from here, like one thing we can do is select all the wall objects. Maybe deselect the elevations. I press and hold Control and then click. I can hit join. Now these should all be closed loops, and if they are, then I can make my 3D walls the active layer and then type extrude curve, and then you can make sure that project is off. So then if you click this height button, it doesn't project to 0, so it actually will snap to it. For example, if I hit project, I'm trying to hover over that corner, but it won't go up. So you can uncheck project, and now I'm trying to extrude it up to this height in my elevation, right? Might be wondering, why is it not showing solid? Let's see what it looks like rendered or shaded. Let's say shaded. So I think it's just a matter of the view. Make sure it's under shaded view. I think it was under wireframe, so it didn't show, but if you show it shaded, you'll see it's a solid mass. So we can go around doing that, extrude curve, making sure that, it's joined. So this isn't solid. You'll notice that some of these walls were not closed, so that's why it won't extrude solid. So we want to close the curve. Or go back to your walls and make sure that it's properly, trimmed or joined. So that's a closed curve. So you want to make sure all these are closed curves. So again, then I can choose it, extrude curve. And I can go around my building, just doing that. Say no. Alright, so let's say yes, see how that turns out. No, it doesn't work, okay. So I think there's some overlapping lines here, so what I want to do is explode it. And then see what's going on here. Join. It's an open curve. Just trying to see where some of the overlaps are. I think I just had too many lines on this side. So if I now join, so it's one closed curve. And again, I can make my 3D walls the active layer and then extrude curve. Sometimes a bit troubleshooting, but it should be okay. So again, I'm going around and extruding the walls. Again, you can right click and repeat the previous command. So that's what I'm doing here. So in this case, I might not want to do it quite like this because there's a window, right? And it actually is only for a portion. So another way you can model walls is if you use the box command. So you want to choose the first corner. Let's say it's right here. the other corner, let's say it's right here, and then the height, which is grabbed from our elevation, right? So you can go around doing that. Just, it's a series of boxes, and then you can extrude. Right. And again, the reason we might do that is because the windows are not full height. Like some of these doors are, so it makes sense that they're separate walls, but we're actually needing to cut an opening probably through some of these windows. So like this whole wall, we might not actually want to build it like this. We might do the other method. So again, here, let's do this inside corner to here, right? And then we can do this big wall as one, and then just across, right? So now what we'll have to do is we'll actually have to create some holes for the windows. So what we want to do now is, so we're using the box command, and then in terms of thickness, then you can go to the, you can go beyond. So let's just see, again, the box command, one corner, the other corner, and then seeing how far it extrudes inward. So now let's copy that over. Right, so you have three. What we can do, oh, so this is the problem. So I don't have project on, and this is, it kind of snapped onto something in 3D space. So I'm just going to Control Z, take that, make sure my project is on, and then I'm going to copy that over, and it should be level now. Make sure it's okay, properly in place. So I'm going to take the big wall, right? I'm going to type in Boolean difference, and then I'm going to subtract those window volumes. Do I want to delete the input? Yes. So I don't want to keep these volumes after. I'll hit enter, and there you go. So you have the kind of window openings kind of cut out here, and it lines up there. So next we'll want to do the same for the other elevation. So making sure your project is off, and then hitting one corner, the other corner, and then on that side, just need it to extrude past. The height is this. Okay, so, oh. Okay. So there's the volume. I'm going to move this over. Again, you just need to make sure that it pierces through the wall. I'm going to make sure my project is on. For some reason, the volume moved, so I'm just going to make sure it's there. And then Boolean difference again. So I'm choosing the main wall, and then select surfaces to subtract with. That's this middle volume. I'm going to delete the input, hit enter, and now that's done, right? So that, again, is the window opening cut out. Next, we want to do maybe the 3D walls. Okay, next we're going to do the 3D doors. Make it, let's say, purple. And I'm just going to go view. I'm just going to draw. I'm going to draw a rectangle, I think. Just want to make sure project is on, right? So I can draw a flat rectangle. Don't want to grab anything in space. Okay, C to close. So that's my rectangle, right? Again, I can move it back. I can offset it by, let's say, 50. And just want to refer to some photos to see what that looks like, right? So the doors, I have this like vertical piece here, so maybe I'll model that as well. So I'll offset it by 50. Then I'll draw a line in the middle, and then offset that by 25 each side. Something like this, right? And then next I can extrude curve, right? So let's select all the lines, extrude, let's say by 25. You can make sure this is again in line with the other pieces. Oh, I guess this wasn't solid because it wasn't a rectangle, so we'll need to do that. Again, move it into the plane, and then I'll extrude it by 25. So that's kind of like the door. And then that's like the door frame. Maybe we'll call it frame, and then it could be (3D) door panes. So maybe that's like a pink or something. A couple ways you can do this. You could just, create a surface. So kind of projects the here, but then I'll move it back. Right? And then I can make this a surface, planar surface command, and then I can copy that over. The reason why we're creating all these different layers is because once we're setting the materials and renderings, you want these to be different layers, at least different objects. If they're separated on different layers, then it's easier to assign different material qualities and different properties. So that's why I'm doing that. And once I select this, I can kind of select curves, or I can select the curves on these layers if I don't need them anymore. Then I can always delete them. Yeah. Again, you can group these as objects, or create it as a block. I'm going to call this a door. And then we can copy the block over. So It's nice if, again, you ever change this, it will apply to all the blocks. So you only need to make the change once, as long as you set it up properly. So just move that in place. So next we can see if that is the same size for all our doors. Or can rotate. So it's not quite. We could explode the block. You could do scale 1D as a quick trick. Right? It won't be perfect because the frames won't be the same width, but again, quick trick to maybe make that work. This a bit short. But yeah. And then looking at that one door, yeah, same way, it's kind of two panes. So I'm just going to copy that and see if we can bring that over here. Again, if you were to do this properly, you'd probably model the door individually, but just trying to get through this pretty quick. And it should be close enough. So again, so we see the walls. Next, oh, I forgot to do these ones, so maybe make sure that it's closed. Make sure this is closed. And then we can extrude those walls up. Unchecking project on. There. We might have a bit of a doorway, so see how high are these walls? 20, so maybe 200. Because there's a bit of a, I believe these are doors. 200. Right. And then, all right. So that's good. Next we have all the columns. I could select objects. I can make a new layer here. 3D columns. Make that active and then hit extrude. Make it the height of the walls. That's great. And then next we want to do the glass. We could do select objects. We could do here 3D glass. Make it that. And then again extrude and pick the tall corner. Oh. Didn't have my correct active layer on, so I'm going to click select objects for the glass, and then I'll hit extrude, click extrude again, top corner, so there you go. So the floor should be easy. I'm just creating a new layer for that. 3D floor. Make it gray. Make it active. I'm just going to use the box tool. Make sure I project on. I'm going to pick one corner the next, and then I'll go down by, let's say, 200. Make sure that goes down. 200. That just so you have a surface. If you know this property or this this house, you'll see that it's on some foundations. So if you really want to model that, you actually draw and model the footings. So each of these columns would have a footing. I'm not going to go into that much detail, but just so you can read the drawings, it actually carries down, it's on a footing, and again, each column would have its own kind of footing there. But we don't need that for now. And then if you look at images, you'll also notice the roof. Each of those courtyards kind of has like a slatted roof. So we can actually model this all as solid, and then the courtyards can have slats in them. So let's create a new layer called 3D roof. Let's go to the top. We'll probably want to draw maybe an outline. So I'm just going around. Going around the outsides, just making sure I have a closed polyline at the end. And then there you go. So that curve I can actually, I'll move it first, right? So it's projected to the ground plane. I'm going to move it up, and then let's extrude it, say 200. I'm going to move it, I think, extrude it down, but there you can see it. And then if you look at our sections, it would show in this one. It's kind of like, let's say, they're like separated by every 100, right? So if you do slats along the way, there's like 100mm gap in between them, and let's say they're like, let's say 50 by like 200. So again, we can kind of model that in the roof. If we go to the plan, zooming out, and let's say we just model one, right? So let's say 50, and then I don't think it was actually that thick, so maybe I'll scale 1D. Let's make it 30. I think it's more like 30. So that'll be a little thinner. And then I can extrude it. Actually, no. I'll have to move this. And now I can extrude it by 200. I can delete the curve now. So this is it. And then I can copy this over. You can even do what's called an array. X directions 1. Y direction, let's say 15. Z is 1. And then I'm spacing is here to here. So, and then I can change it. Spacing is 100. Number of elements that I'm doing an array, let's say 100. Okay. Maybe I change it back to 50. Okay, that's close enough, and then I'll hit enter, and I'll just like delete these extra ones. So that's a quick way of kind of creating those elements. And then we can do the same here. Again, the length. So just creating the polyline for it. Moving this up. Come to the right view. Making sure it is moved up properly. And then I'm extruding it up here. And then next we'll move it. Actually, we can delete the curve. Then we can move this across by, I think, 100. And then we'll do an array. So x, this time we'll make it, let's say, 40. In the y direction, it's we're not moving this direction, so we'll make that 1. Z is 1. Spacing is 100. Say 48. Oh, maybe 52. Alright, that's close enough. And then we'll delete that. And then we just need to do this last one. I think it's just this way across. So, just drawing the slat again. Closing that up. I'm moving it when it comes to this view. And then extruding the curve. And then moving it over by the 100. And then next we'll do the array command again. X direction 52, sure. Y direction 1. Z is 1. Reference point, let's say here to here. So we don't need as many, let's say 40. Close enough, and then we'll just delete the remainders. So let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good. If we go into the insides, let's make the floor our active layer so we can turn off the roof. This is what it looks like. That's pretty good. I think I might have missed a couple window openings, but feel free to go ahead and do that. We can add more detail by adding the frames. But that's pretty much it, just like going into the details of that. And yeah, adding the frames here. We could swing some of the doors open if we wanted, but that's pretty much the basics. For the floors, we could actually extract, cut this out, and then make these grass. I think there's like a tree in there, so we could do that. But yeah, same kind of process. I'd make a volume here to here, and then then I'd say Boolean difference. Right, so that'd be like the courtyard. So I'd kind of just go around doing that. But again, that's pretty much it. The next video we'll jump into maybe 3D drawings, extracting elevations, sections, and maybe even doing exploded axo. So how can we turn a 3D model into some 2D drawings that we could use for a full drawing set. So if you like this video, you got some value of it, please subscribe and like the video, as it helps with the algorithm. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Happy to answer if you're trying to follow along with us and troubleshoot with you. And again, hope you enjoy these videos. For more information about design, architecture, and real estate development, that's what we're going to focus on in this channel. And again, please subscribe if you like what you're seeing. See you on the next one.